Good evening, and welcome back to Parenting in a Pandemic. Last week we heard from Jeannie Lee, a single mom in the heart of New York City who shared with us about the realities of raising two Black teenage boys in what was once the epicenter of the U.S. COVID outbreak. Jeannie explained how the ongoing pandemic of racism in America, coupled with the new complexities and difficulties brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic, were enough to remind her that something as simple as a hug from her sons is a gift during this difficult time, and something she will never again take for granted. If you haven't had the chance to hear Jeannie's story, we invite you to visit Tumbuh.org, where all of our previous episodes are available. Tonight, for our final episode, we hear from two families living only minutes apart in the same city. They share in common that one member of each household is a U.S. public school professional. Though similar in demographic and professional role, these families have had completely different experiences parenting in this pandemic. A good reminder that while we are all in the same storm, our boats are all quite different. Let's listen as they share about their own parenting experience and how they are processing what might be coming for schools in the fall.
Hi, this is Al Whitehouse.
And I'm Mary Whitehouse. And we are mom and dad to Ryan, who is 25, and Trace, who is 5. The backstory there is we adopted Ryan when he was 14, and Trace is biologically ours. This is day 78 of some form of lockdown, quarantine, stay at home, shelter in place order. We live in North Carolina, and March 13th was our last work day at work. And then over the course of that weekend and by Monday, the state, we already had some work at home orders, but the state collectively issued a stay at home order. And we have recently gone into phase 2 of reopening, which means that the essential businesses are still open. Crowds of 25 or fewer can gather, maintaining social distance and masks and appropriate hand washing and all of the things. There's actually been a lot of resistance to the limitations of this second phase. Some people in our state have wished that the governor would open up more businesses and other venues and settings for people to gather and to go about what used to be normal life for us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Teresa Jones.
I'm Jeff Breiner.
And this is the Breiner Family Circus.
Whoa, whoa! I'm Lily.
I'm Ella.
Oh,
Ben.
These guys are 17 and 15. We've been out of school and I've been out of work since about the second week in March. I'm a school counselor. Jeff is an internist. So while I've been on lockdown, he's been going to work still. So it's been an interesting dynamic for sure. You're frontline, but not really frontline. I'm not sure how you would describe it.
I'm backline.
We've been really following all the rules. We've been very vigilant about social distancing. We haven't been hanging out with friends. We haven't been going places and doing things, getting all our groceries ordered online. Kids really miss their friends. It's definitely been challenging.
I miss school, but I miss all the different parts of school, like the friends, being in class, seeing people in person.
And hugs. We
And
all
hugs.
really miss
Yes.
hugs.
True social contact is missing.
Yeah, I don't realize how many hugs I give out
Yeah.
and get during the day until you don't anymore.
I've been missing my friends a lot. Most of my classes, because my classes are really fun.
But there's been a lot of good time that we've had together
Yeah.
that we wouldn't have otherwise had, all 5
I
of us.
think this is something that we share, that it is difficult to be a parent and an employee, cook, auto repair, house repair, landscape, basically all the things that we used to do, but including things like teaching our child, our youngest child, keeping him entertained while we still manage to do some semblance of work that we would otherwise not be distracted to do. I mean, there's always distractions in the workplace, but 5-year-olds' distractions are very different than most. So we're sitting here now at almost 9. It is 9 o'clock at night because this is the only time that we would be able to do this in relative peace and be able to actually do it in one shot.
I think for me, the hardest part has been, our 25-year-old Ryan is working. And so he functionally works a second shift job. He's fairly independent in terms of being a member of our household. So he kind of is a non-factor in the parenting practice from day to day. So Trace, our 5-year-old, really is the one who demands a lot of attention, and he's got a lot of energy and a lot of big emotions and the litigation skills of Atticus Finch. And those things have been amplified in him as well. Trying to parent him and teach him and help him understand that I still have to do my work too has been really challenging, and especially with the limited places that we can go. Like, we can't go to our park where we might spend some time on the days that the weather's really nice. And we've had a lot of really nice days to be able to get outside. So we've found other venues that we can use, but some of the places that he has asked to go or that we would like to be able to take him, if this were a normal day at home, we're just not able to do. And so I think trying to achieve some level of balance with all of that and with trying to take care of ourselves too, because this is stressful for everybody.
So, what do you think has been the most difficult part?
The lack of a schedule. School provided a place to go and a time to be there that was unflexible, and you just had to do it. And now the learning is online and loose.
I would say one of the most difficult things has been all the cups. I don't know how 3 kids can use 25 cups a day, but somehow they manage to. But they, comparatively to our other friends of similar age kids, and then just from the parents that I've been in contact with from school, I think our kids have been pretty good. They got up, they met with their class, they did their work. So yeah, I get the schedule part, but at the same time, I think is in terms of the big picture and things that could have gone wrong, challenges that lots of other parents are having, that they've had it pretty easy. The sleep thing, that's been kind of difficult.
That's back to the schedule, yes.
Yeah, because even if they did get up, it wasn't at their regular time. Some teachers had online meetings and some teachers didn't. And then for them not to be able to see their friends and for us to tell them no, even though they knew other people that were hanging out. We've been pretty strict about the social isolation part. It hasn't been too hard, actually. They've been really good about it. Not a lot of whining, not a lot of complaining.
Not much kickback.
Not a lot of pushback. I think one of the other things is our son spends a lot of time on his computer, but he's playing games with his friends. So trying to find that balance between letting him have that social interaction.
It's a social connection that I think is the best substitute that he can find, and he needs that. He's extroverted, and that kind of helps.
So we've been definitely a lot more lax about that. We have not been restricting the screen time like we do during regular school periods.
Yeah, late nights, staying up super late, back to the scheduling thing.
But clearly lots of other parents have been too, because he's not playing by himself. He's playing with his friends from school.
It's a late night community.
I think the biggest unexpected joy of this experience has been getting to spend more time together as a family and getting to spend more time with Trace. He turns 6 this summer, and usually that's the time, I know, when kids really start to become kids and not little people anymore. And I was already starting to grieve the loss of that. And so I've been very thankful that I have had more time to soak in all of that. As hard as it is at times, there's been a lot of really sweet moments and a lot of time together that we wouldn't have had otherwise, that I've just appreciated.
Like, to mirror what Mary says, just the opportunity to get up and to have him there, or have him unexpectedly come in during a meeting and Zoom bomb our meetings with his cuteness. He's so precocious and he's so joyful. When I'm at the office and I need a break and I need some time out and I need just to take a minute, I'm on my phone, or I'm looking at a website, or I'm taking a walk and talking to somebody there. And it's just kind of a special joy to, instead of do those things, which I think I still do, but I find myself more and more going, why am I looking at this website, or why am I staring at this phone when my beautiful little boy is right around the corner and I can go play with him. So I've been trying to enjoy that much more, and try to take in those moments as much as I can, and just really appreciate the fact that I'm getting to be with him so much more than I would have. See him grow. I haven't experienced this since his first year when I took care of him, where we've been in this kind of close contact, and it's kind of slowed down time for us and allowed us to really kind of savor and take in all of his fiveness, but also all of his traceness as well. Everything that makes him who he is, and
We found some unexpected joys, but I wouldn't say that the families that are just walking around singing Kumbaya all the time, I haven't felt that either, because we're not both home together with all that extra time. I know so many families that are like home watching movies during the day or playing board games or going for walks, and it's been very different for us because I've been working from home. There's definitely been joys, but it hasn't been like that, woo, isn't this great, all this quality time.
No, it's these little moments that kind of catch you off guard. Finding a movie or something that we could all agree upon can be challenging, but there is a series called Avatar that we've all...
that the whole world knew about.
Yes, but... and I'm like, I'll watch anything if we can watch it all together. I'll put up with anything, and I fell into it and absolutely loved it.
We've been eating dinner together pretty much every night because... without after-school activities and
places to go,
lessons, all of that stuff.
Yeah, lessons are down, tutoring outside, all the...
Pretty much it's just been if I've had online meetings. Dinner together every night, that's been nice. One of my unexpected joys, not so much for you, I know you miss it, but I have not had to get up at 6 in the morning and make 3 lunches anymore. But you miss having everybody's company in the morning.
I do. I miss waking up and having our time together, having fun together, clowning around, listening to the news, and sharing the morning together. But that's all right.
I don't know what the next normal is going to look like. We knew what it was like before the pandemic hit, and we're really adjusting after 78 days to what this new normal currently is, where we're trying to do school, but we're also trying to do life and work and all the other things that come with that, and kind of this secluded and kind of cut off state that we're currently in. So I figure we're learning how to do this, and we're learning how to find the cheat codes and all the ways that we can get the most out of what we're doing right now. But the new normal, like, what does school look like for Trace when he has to go back and school's in some form of isolation or lockdown because, we're still trying to figure out a cure or a vaccine or something for coronavirus? What does the new normal look like with just the tensions and everything that are happening in the world currently that have been brought on by the pandemic? Just all of the anxieties and tensions that are just seem to be cooking in a pressure cooker right now. These are the things that I truly worry about, is just what is the new normal going to look like?
Yes, all of that. And at kind of a more micro level, how are our kids going to come out of this? Ryan has enough awareness to see it as more through an adult lens. And so the nature of our conversations with him are very adult. And it's very real world, and this is where we are. With Trace, I find myself only giving him as much information as he needs. He's very aware that there's a virus out there. He has at times expressed worry over, do certain individuals have the virus? And thankfully, I've been able to say no in every instance. He has expressed sadness over not being able to be with his friends, with his teachers. And because we've been together for 78 days, separating from us is really a challenge. And so I worry about his emotional state and how much anxiety is he absorbing and internalizing that we aren't even aware of yet. I worry about where he's going to be academically. There are a lot of parents who are worried about that. And I know that we keep saying as educators, I work in the school system, and we keep talking about how all of our kids are in some ways in a very similar boat as one another. Nobody's really getting solid core instruction right now. And so the district is having to figure out, how are we going to fill in those holes when school does start back? And yet, when you are the one providing some semblance of facilitated learning or education, or trying to adjust what teachers have said, you hope you're doing it at least okay.
Of the potential of stagnation for their minds from excessive and unproductive screen time, it's hard to really control what they're doing on their devices, and so that's a concern.
So I'm not as concerned about that. I think they're already well-developed kids. They have good habits and bad habits just like everybody else, and they've already met all the developmental milestones. Of course, it's especially difficult for adolescents right now because this is that time period in their lives where they're supposed to be like becoming more independent and pulling away from parents, and that's what they're missing right now. It's kind of that
being away from them.
independence.
Yeah,
It's that
they tend to
independence.
be
Yeah,
so
they're
personally close that it's hard to be that.
they're with us all the time. So I wouldn't say I'm concerned about it, but I do recognize that. Biggest thing I'm concerned about is the uncertainty. They really keep thinking, well, in the fall when things get back to normal. And I think we both know that things aren't going to be normal in the fall. Ella will be a senior next year. She's already should have been looking at colleges and touring. Those were all canceled. So it's just not knowing what's going to happen. It's my concern for myself, for you, and for the kids. It's my concern for everybody. It's hard for me to kind of really have that concern for our kids because I know so many kids have it much more difficult time right now.
The situation's much more difficult for a variety of other social circumstances with needs that were met by the traditional school and presence, and there's no present in the school.
Wake County has given over 1 million meals since this went under, and
that's a good thing.
Our Wake County school system has been phenomenal. They made sure that all kids had access to technology. They handed out thousands of computers, of laptops, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 hotspots. They've been really phenomenal in trying to make this as equitable a virtual learning experience as possible. But those kids that are still super high need, they aren't getting what they need. And, I worry much more for the kids that are in a violent home or 8 people in a small apartment with...
They can't distance no matter what.
Yeah, or no lawn to play with. Those are the kids that I worry about.
It has been really hard to conceive of what will our world look like when this pandemic is over. So this one's a really challenging question as far as what do I hope it will be, because I've had to be so much in the present just for my own sanity and mental health, and 5-year-olds are really good at grounding you in the present moment. So I haven't really had much of an opportunity to think through what it would be like. My hope is that the ways in which people have cared for one another continues, and my hope is that the economic justice that has come about, as far as if you can't make your rent payment this month, no problem, you're not going to get evicted. If you can't pay your utility bill this month, the power's not going to get turned off. You're still going to have water. You're still going to have electricity. You're still going to have phone or, whatever service you're not able to pay for. And in fact, our governor on Friday, I think, just signed a new executive order that said that will continue for the foreseeable future. So I've been very thankful that some of the things we've needed all along have become reality in the midst of this incredible crisis. And I hope those things continue. The cynical part of me says they probably won't, but the hopeful, optimistic part of me wants to see that continue. I want us to still have community and care for each other, and I want our kids to be a part of facilitating that and making sure that they are taking care of themselves, but then they're also reaching out to other people and checking on other people and saying, hey, I'm here if you need me. Hey, I'm running to the grocery store. What can I get for you? I can drop it off. Just the beautiful things that have come out of this and the ways that people have cared for one another, and in the way that some of our systems have given people a break that's been very needed. I want those things to continue.
I've had some thoughts about this recently, just from the standpoint of kind of a generational thing, in that for Ryan's, I would say he'd be a millennial, maybe on that border of millennial, zennial, and something that's been fairly common with basically all of our generations now because of the internet and everything is the prevalence of just being in our phones and being in our technology so much and just having our heads in it. One of the things I noticed about Trace is that he doesn't want to interact on the computer. Doesn't want to interact with other people, doesn't want to do the videos, doesn't want to do the classroom video where you talk with your other classmates or your friend. He doesn't want to see his teacher over the video. He wants to hug her. He wants to be in her presence. And I think my greatest hope is that whatever technological trauma comes out of this pandemic, of just having to use it so much to educate, to buy groceries, to communicate, to do all the things that we do with it, that their generation, Trace's generation specifically, will kind of break that cycle and say, you know what, I don't want I don't want to connect over a phone. I don't want to text. I don't want to video chat. I don't want to call. I want to be in your face. I want to see you. I want to touch you. I want to be, in your presence, and kind of revive that whole part, I think, that we're missing these days of connection and relationship that I feel has kind of gone to the side. For Ryan, he's had his own journey, and it's been a tough one from the time he was born to the time he came over here to today. He is learning how to be an adult, and he's learning very difficult lessons very quickly. He's learning what it means to be somebody without a college education. He's learning what it means to be somebody without health care, which he will be turning 26 in September. And in America, you get kicked off of your parents' health insurance at 26. So we're having a lot of tough discussions right now. And what I hope is that this kind of level playing field, I guess, where there's so many people out of jobs and out of work, that this level playing field will allow him kind of that starting place again where he can grow into not only adulthood, but a career and a life, and hopefully do it in a way that is sustainable, not like generations before with debt, living paycheck to paycheck, not being able to figure out what the next steps are. I'm hoping that maybe out of something, there's some kind of sustainability that comes for people that are not economically privileged. That's really what I would hope for both of them.
So life in a post-pandemic world. I would like to say that I'm hopeful for a lot of change, but I'm really not sure I am. We've been here so many times before, not to this extent, but I don't know. It's been hard. It's been a rough couple weeks. You something tragic happens, and you think things are going to change, and there's a lot of protests, and everybody becomes really aware for a short period of time, and then things start getting easier again, and people just go back to their regular privileged lifestyle, and that's the end of it. That happened after Sandy Hook, the Women's March, everybody was woo for a while, and gun control, and now here we are with police brutality, killing of Black people in our society, and people dying by the thousands. I'm worried about the numbers going up. So I hope post-pandemic there's certainly more equitable access to health care. I think that's a huge issue in the United States.
Healthcare transformation.
I would like to say I hope people care more about their fellow humans, but I'm not even seeing that now. People in the grocery stores without masks on. I would think that post-pandemic might be more compassion for one another, but I can't say that I'm really all that hopeful.
I think if you were to ask what it would look like, I would be more optimistic. I think that we'll learn that social media is no substitute for true personal interaction. I think the significant trauma in so many ways right now, compounded by the social anxieties of the violence and the horrible inequities and the virus onslaught. I think this is prompting major dialogue and hopefully a good reform that will be better in the future.
Well, I think one thing we have definitely learned is that you don't always have to be in a rush to go do something. You don't, the whole kind of culture of busyness, and the busier you are, I don't know, like the better person you are, the more productive you are. And I think one thing that we've learned is that you can slow down and still be a productive person.
Social contacts and friends that I don't want to say I took for granted, but their contact with them was kind of happening periodically, and that was taken for granted. Then bang, this happens, and now I'm basically texting "I miss you" messages in an awkward way, trying to not seem too silly, but saying, "Hey, man, that's a big thing to not take for granted social connectivity, true social contact."
That it's really brought out the disparities in access to technology in schools, with just the amount of computers and the devices and hotspots that kids didn't have. A lot of assignments are done on a computer online, turned in online, and not every kid has access to that. Right. And I think that was something that this really brought out is that disparity. And I hope the appreciation of teachers is different. I mean, the teachers here turned on a dime and created
so much to adapt to these challenges on every level of each kid and their unique needs. And we saw them in messaging and text messaging, how they all tried so hard to say, Are you okay? Do you have what you need? You know, a device, a tablet, food, all these things that you just kind of take for granted within the public school system.
Well, I'll tell you what else is taken for granted is, you know, the whole opening back up plan is really because people need someplace for their kids to go.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, school
not
is
only
so much.
are they paying teachers
School is
enough,
so much.
but without them, I think they've realized like what an invaluable service. Like it's not just the education, it's a safe place for your kid to be.
Indeed.
Tonight we were reminded that there are two sides to every coin, two perspectives to every lived reality. For Mary and Al, they are balancing real-world adult issues with a 25-year-old son, while also trying to delicately couch this pandemic in 5-year-old terms for their other son. All while Mary prepares to return to school in whatever form or fashion that will take in the fall. For the Breiner family circus, Teresa and Jeff, it's been about helping 3 similarly aged teenagers process this experience and the disappointments it has brought along. Helping young adults become independent while stuck at home and unable to leave the house due to safety measures. While Jeff heads in to work each day helping possible COVID patients, Teresa works from home wondering what the fall will bring for her new school routine. 2 families only minutes apart, deeply embedded in their communities and doing whatever it takes to provide for their own children while preparing to become frontliners for other people's children very soon. And that is the point of this documentary. That while being in a similar boat in the sense of trying to stay healthy in the midst of this viral pandemic that has touched nearly every country on the planet, we are also all on our own unique journey. We are learning surprising and hard lessons. We are prioritizing in new ways and letting go of the non-essential aspects of our lives. We are reevaluating relationships and who we choose to connect with and how and why. We are all looking with fresh, yet exhausted and worn out eyes at the life before us and saying to ourselves, though we barely believe it at times, we can do this. We can adapt, we can change, we can survive, and we can still be better for it. Thank you for joining us this last 6 weeks. Stay safe, stay well, and good night.